Hey guys, YouTuber Hibbert here. Alright, now here I am continuing with these obscure 2000s Disney movie reviews. And up next, this is going to be a review for The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So yeah, this is another movie that really isn't really as obscure as like a lot of the other movies that I have already gone through in these reviews. It was like this film, like it was like does kind of like have like it is still like relatively popular, but at the same time, I mean, just like when this movie like was first released, like pretty much like the first year or after this movie's release, maybe a little bit more than a year, but yeah, like pretty much like the year when this movie did come out, like pretty much from like the first year of its release, like it was like popular amongst people. Like I do remember this really like getting talked about quite a bit. I remember like just like hearing this film get mentioned a lot through like its first year of release, maybe a little bit more than a year. But like just like very shortly after that, like after like its first year, like that's just kind of like when I just like stopped hearing people really talking about this movie. Like it just really doesn't get talked about like all that much. Even like when the sequels had come out, I really didn't really hear like a lot of people really talking about the film that much. This is this was one that kind of like was popular when it like the first year of its release, but yeah, shortly after that is when just like just its popularity just like passed by and just it stopped getting talked about. Yeah, so it is obscure like in that way, kind of like some of the other movies that I have already talked about, such as like Freaky Friday and like a couple other ones that I have already talked about. Yeah. No, and I never had actually seen this movie before. Like I hadn't actually seen any of the Narnia films at all until like I just watched this movie to make this review. Yeah. So going into it, like I wasn't exactly too sure what to expect. Like I know this was like based on a book that was like from C.S. Lewis, yeah. But of course, like I'd never actually uh read the book before. So yeah, once again, like yeah, I'm not really going to be making any comparisons between like the book and this film because I really can't make the comparison. So yeah, so I'm just like looking at this as a movie. Yeah. So I really like wasn't too sure what to expect. Even like from the trailers, just was even like I knew that it was like a fantasy film because like with the talking animals and stuff, but even then, like I just wasn't really too sure like what the story of this film really was going into it. Yeah, so I went into it with kind of like just like with no, not really that much context on like what it really was about. But yeah, I did give the film a watch, and yeah, I gotta say this was a pretty good movie. Yeah, this is kind of like a more like family lighthearted version of Lord of the Rings because yeah, I have heard like some people comparing this movie to the Lord of the Rings movies, and yeah, I can kind of understand the comparison because it does kind of like have a similar setup to Lord of the Rings with some similar ideas, but yeah, it is like also done kind of like a more lighthearted way. Like it's not really like as violent or like as intense as Lord of the Rings was. Yeah, it does seem like more family oriented. Yeah, but at the same time, this is kind of like the same thing that I was talking about with National Treasure. Like as you're watching this film, like it kind of just like make you like not really remember that it's a Disney film because yeah, just like with the tone that this movie has, this doesn't really like seem something that really is under the Disney name. So so it really does like really like take you out of the frame that this is actually a Disney movie. Like it really does make you think that this is from another studio. Yeah, and like I said, this is a pretty good movie. I mean, yeah, it is like kind of like a story that like kind of has been done before in a sense. How just like they're like these kids that do like end up like being like transported to another world through like a wardrobe closet, and it does like take them into like the realm of Narnia, which is yeah, and pretty much like when they're in Narnia, it's like no time actually does like exist like out in like the in the real world because yeah, it does show like when they're in Narnia, when they actually do like come back to the real world, like it's as if like just like no time has really passed by. So yeah, so this is like had kind of like seen that done before in like some other like TV shows and movies and stuff. But yeah, reusing like a cliche, those kinds of elements really isn't a bad thing if it's done right. And yeah, and this movie really does do it right. Yeah, I mean, this really does do a good job of like just like showing like how much of a fantasy movie this is, because yeah, it does show like they are like just like in a total fantasy world. Like it has like the stuff like pretty much that you would see in like films like this, where you do have like just like these magical creatures, talking animals. There's an evil sorceress. Well, not really a sorceress, but an evil emperor that's like the ruler of Narnia, and you also do have like another army that's pretty much like trying to like defeat her and take over, which is led by a lion and stuff. Yeah, and you do have like just like four siblings coming to this world and really like trying to also stop the villain from actually ruling the world and like just and defeating her. So yeah, it really does like do like that kind of story, and yeah, and it is done in a really good way. Like I really couldn't like think of anything from this movie that I really was bored by. I mean, there was some stuff that I was really just found that was like kind of corny at times, but even then, just it really wasn't like all that much that I really did find corny. A lot of the stuff in the movie that I really did actually enjoy. Like I did enjoy like the characters. Like I did overall like the kids. I like the villain. I like the side characters. I like the lion, and yeah. So the characters are for the most part pretty likable in the movie. Yeah, and they really do like. And the movie does do a really good job of really just like forming connections between the characters, particularly from like the youngest sister and the fawn in the movie. Like, yeah, the connection between them is done really well. Well, and yeah, and even like the connections between like the other kids and like some of the other characters, such as the lion and the beavers and those those other like these other like characters that they do end up coming across in Narnia. Yeah, it is done like in a really good way. And plus, yeah, and yeah, the battle scenes at the end, those are done really well. It really is. It really does just like give us like a really big climax when we do see like what happens to a certain character at a point in the film, and it really does make it seem like tragic. But then, yeah, it does kind of go down that Disney approach of like making it happy and stuff. So yeah, so yeah, while I did say that this film does kind of like make you like not really remember that it's Disney, it does kind of like remind us by kind of like giving us kind of like a happier ending with it than what it seemed like we were originally going to get. So yeah, but yeah, overall, yeah, I actually did really enjoy this movie. I mean, like I said, it is pretty much kind of like a lighthearted version of Lord of the Rings things. And I really do feel that this was kind of like similar to kind of like what Disney was wanting to do with the Pirates of the Caribbean. Though with the Pirates of the Caribbean films, while that was really just like them doing like totally different movies and kind of just like going down the Lord of the Rings route and trying to tell it in the same way Lord of the Rings was told. This time they actually did give it like the same genre, and they did like tell a story that overall was still like not really like totally be like the same Lord of the Rings story, but it was still done in a similar way that Lord of the Rings was told. So there probably will be a lot of people that really would like compare this movie to the Lord of the Rings. But yeah, even if you do like compare it to Lord of the Rings, you'll see that it is still like quite different from Lord of the Rings in its setup. Because yeah, like I said, it is more lighthearted. It's not really as violent or brutal or anything. And I really do feel that this is a movie that like uh like it's not really like a movie that was really like just like geared to kids, but yeah, it is a film that I really do think that will be like that is like kind of like geared to like kind of a younger demographic than the Lord of the Rings was. So yeah. So overall, just I really can't find a whole lot not to really like about this movie. I mean, like I said, there are like some corny moments throughout it, and stuff. But yeah, overall, just the story is really told just like really well, and I just overall, yeah, I did enjoy it. So I would probably give this film probably around like I don't know. I guess I would go like give it like around the 3.5 stars out of 4 range. So yeah. Yeah, so yeah, it is just like a really good movie, and I really do enjoy it. So yeah, if you haven't seen the film before, I really do recommend checking it out because yeah, if you really do like fantasy films, yeah, this is a really is a good one to check out. I mean, it's probably not for everybody, but yeah, if you are into like these kinds of films, this is definitely a good one to check out. All right, so yeah, so I guess I'll just talk about the story of the movie. Okay, so as the movie starts, like this, it shows that this movie is like set during World War II, and after like there are like some like after like a battle ensues and there's some bombings, like it shows that there's a family like the Pavensi family, which consists of like four children. It's Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy, and it shows that they're sent away, hey, from the bombings, and it shows that they're like sent over to like a country home with Professor Diggory Kirk. Yeah, and one day, as like the kids are like playing in the house, Lucy eventually ends up discovering in a wardrobe, and then when she opened it, she saw that it led to another world. And then when she entered it, it showed them that she was in the world of Narnia. Narnia, yeah, yeah. And then she eventually ended up um seeing a lamppost, and she ended up coming across a fawn named Tumnus. And then yeah, they introduced themselves to each other, and then after Tumnus brought Lucy back to his home, then eventually Tumnus was grieving because apparently there's the White Witch that ended up actually causing a ended up cursing Narnia with eternal winter 100 years ago, and now any humans that are actually in Narnia will actually be brought to her, and so then to protect Lucy, Tumnus ended up sending her home, and then when she went back through the wardrobe back to the real world, back in Professor Kirk's house, it showed that like not really all that much time passed by, and now and then she tried to tell her siblings what she just went through with entering Narnia and stuff, but her siblings just thought that it was just her imagining. Yeah, yeah. Then eventually later that night, when Lucy then like went back into the wardrobe into Narnia, Edmund like followed her in, but then Edmund then eventually came across the White Witch, who was played by Tilda Swinton, the same actress that played the Ancient One in Doctor Strange. And I guess I should also mention that how that Tumnus was played by James McAvoy. Well, yeah. So yeah, this movie does like have a few like uh, famous stars like that, but yeah, it doesn't really like have like a whole lot of like big name actors. Like, yeah, the kids really aren't that well known, and yeah, a lot of the other cast members in the film really are not big names either. So yeah, so this movie does do a good job of like casting like not a whole lot of people that really are like big names. So it, they just don't do that. They're not that problem of like the actor's reputation just overshadowing their roles. So yeah, the movie does do a good job of, like casting like actors that really aren't big names like that. Yeah, but yeah, yeah, but continuing on, yeah, the witch was just like telling Edmund that she's actually the queen, and after she offered him a Turkish delight, and also like offered him the prospect of becoming the king if he actually does bring his siblings to the castle. Yeah, yeah, and then then after she left, then Edmund and Lucy then returned back to Professor Kirk's home. Yeah, and then then when Peter and Susan like us found them, then like Lucy like was telling Peter and Susan again about Narnia, but Edmund was just lying, saying that nothing happened. Yeah, and then as Lucy was just like upset about Edmund lying about it, then they eventually ended up uh, running into Professor Kirk himself, and then then like Professor Kirk was just suggesting to Peter and Susan that Lucy was telling the truth, but yes, they were not convinced. Then then like the next day after the kids ended up accidentally breaking a window while playing. They then were just like a running from the housekeeper, and yeah, then they just hid in the wardrobe, and then that's when Peter and Susan then uh discovered Narnia as well. Yeah, yeah, and then yeah, then eventually they like discovered that Tumnus was taken by the witch, and then they also ended up coming across a pair of anthropomorphic beavers. Yeah, and then when the beavers brought the kids over to their home, then they were telling them about Aslan. Aslan, yeah, and the beavers were just explaining them that Aslan had the intentions to actually take control of Narnia from the witch, and the four of them actually must help him, as it's been prophesied that the two sons of Adam and two daughters of Eve sit on the four thrones. The witch's reign will end. Yeah, and that's like how they were. Like Peter and Edmund were um um known as the two sons of Adam, and Susan and Lucy were labeled as like the two daughters of Eve. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it was basically like they were the ones that could actually uh end the witch's reign. Yeah, but then like it showed Edmund ended up just like sneaking off, and he went to the witch. But then there was then like when the witch discovered that Edmund did not actually bring his siblings with him, like then she just um held Edmund captive and sent like her wolves to actually find the siblings and the beavers. Yeah, and then yeah, the siblings. Well, yeah, the wolves that were led by Mulgrim. I think that's how it said Mulgrim. Yeah, yeah. Then like they gave chase to the other kids and the beavers, but yeah, then it like also showed that they also came across a fox that was named Mr. Fox, who was voiced by Rupert Everett, and he was just like trying to help Peter, her, Susan, and Lucy like get away from the wolves. Yeah, and they were just like the well, yeah, the Mr. Fox was just directing the wolves in the wrong direction to get them away. Yeah. Yeah. Then it was shown how Edmund was like chained in the witch's dungeon, along with Tumnus. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then yeah, then after like the witch just like wasn't able to get any further info about his siblings' Edmund's, yeah, the rest of the kids' location from Edmund. Then after Ed Tumnus claims Edmund knew nothing, the witch just told Tumnus that Edmund betrayed him, and then yeah, eventually then she just ended up turning Tumnus to stone, and that was pretty much just like her way of actually destroying people. Well, yeah, the other beings in Narnia by just touching them with her scepter, and it just like transformed them into like stone statues. Yeah, but then yeah, then eventually then after like Peter, Lucy, Susan, and the Beavers, like, as they were continuing to travel, well, it showed them, like, they seemed to be being chased, and as they were, like, running from who they believed to be the White Witch, it was then revealed that it was actually Father Christmas that was pursuing them. Yeah. And then, yeah, then Father Christmas then just gave the kids other weapons to defend themselves. He gave Lucy a healing cordial. I think that's how it's said, which is capable of healing other injuries as well as a dagger. Yeah. He gave Susan a magical horn to summon help and a bow with arrows. And yeah, he gave Peter a sword and a shield. Yeah. Yeah. And then yeah, then eventually the kids and the beavers did eventually reach Aslan's camp, and then it was revealed that Aslan was actually like a lion, and yeah, and he did have the ability to speak, and yeah, no, Aslan was voiced by Liam Neeson. Yeah, and then yeah, then Aslan then just told the kids that he will help Edmund. Yeah, and then after two wolves ended up ambushing Lucy and Sarah, Peter then and like had a standoff with the two wolves, and he got his sword out and was just like pointing the sword at them, and I kind of just like thought that to be like kind of overkill with just him pointing the sword. Like I was just kind of like just wanting him to just like get on with it and actually like try to actually fight the wolves. Well, yeah, but yeah, with Aslan's help, Peter was eventually able to kill Mogrim. Yeah, and then as the other wolf then attempted to escape, some of Aslan's troops actually followed him to the witch's camp, and Edmund was eventually rescued. Yeah, but then yeah, then the White Witch then just ended up uh then just got like her army together and just set out to Aslan's camp to take Edmund back. But yeah, then like but Aslan like refused to hand Edmund over to her, and then after like a conversation between the two of them that like was off screen, like it was just in like a closed location. Like it was revealed that like the witch wouldn't take Edmund, but yeah, it was like revealed that like Aslan secretly offered himself in exchange. Yeah, and then yeah, after like the um, Aslan like was brought to the witch's castle, it was just shown like how just Aslan was just like tied up, and they just cut his mane, and eventually the witch ended up killing Aslan. Yeah, yeah, but then yeah, then she just ended up deploying an army to take out the rest of Aslan's army as well as the other kids. Yeah. Yeah. And then yeah, then Edmund then just persuaded Peter to lead Aslan's army against the witch's army. Yeah. And then yeah, then the following morning, then a battle ensued between both armies. But it then showed like back at the castle, it showed that Aslan was resurrected after citing magic that was beyond the witch's understanding. And so then Aslan and brought Susan and Lucy back to the witch's castle, and they were able to free all the petrified prisoners, which included Tumnus, and yeah, Mr. Fox was also um, uh, turned into a statue at a point in the film also, and just yeah, everybody else that ended up being turned into stone statues. Yeah, and then yeah, then after like a face off between Edmund and the witch, it showed that the witch ended up like mortally wounding Edmund. Yeah, but then Aslan then arrived with the resurrected uh, beings that the witch ended up turning into statues. Yeah, and then Aslan was able to kill the witch. Yeah. Then, as it showed Edmund was like dying, then Lucy then used the cordial to heal Edmund, and then then it just showed how all four of them were reunited, and then then the Vivencies then were all crowned kings and queens. Yeah, it was like Peter was like crowned King Peter the Magnificent. Susan was Queen Susan the Gentle. Edmund was King Edmund the Just, and Queen Lucy the Valiant. Yeah. So yeah, they all like then like took the throne now, like officially ending the witch's reign. Yeah. And then then the movie cut to like 15 years later. They had like stayed in Narnia during this whole time. Yeah, it showed that like they were now like young adults that were pursuing a white stag. But then it showed then they like encountered a lamppost that Lucy first saw, and then they just ended up like all of a sudden just tumbling out of the wardrobe at the same time, and it showed that like they were just like their young selves again, like at the same time that they had like entered the wardrobe. When they did, yeah, and so yeah, now that they were restored to like their younger ages, as I just said, yeah. Then after Professor Kirk like just found them, they were asking why they were in the wardrobe, and they were just telling him that he wouldn't believe it. But then, Professor Kirk just said, "Try me," yeah. And then then that's how the movie then cut to credits. But then in a mid-credit scene, as Lucy then was attempting to enter into Narnia again, and Professor Kirk then just like saw her trying to, and he just told her that like she may not be able to enter again because he's tried for many years, and they'll return to Narnia when they least expect it. And as Professor Kirk and Lucy then were just leaving the room, it showed them the door to the wardrobe opening, and you saw like the light through, like indicating that like there was still Narnia in the wardrobe. Yeah. And that's how the movie ended. Yeah, and so yeah, and like I said, I haven't actually like seen the sequels. Like they have made two sequels to this movie so far, or with they had Prince Caspian and yeah, it's Prince Caspian and the Voyage of the the Treader. So yeah, they have made like two sequels so far, and I'm guessing like this mid-credit scene is actually like setting up for Prince Caspian. Like I said, I haven't seen it, so I don't officially know that yet. But yeah, I may like check out the other sequels to just see like where like the series did go from this point. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, so I guess like this movie just did like a similar like cliffhanger that National Treasure did. Yeah. But like I said, that's how the movie ended. So yeah, so overall, yeah, it is a pretty good movie. I mean, yeah, just yeah, it tells the story like really, really well. I do like all the characters. It does have like some good battle scenes at the end, and yeah, and the performances are all like pretty good, and yeah, and plus yeah, the CG on the animals is done like really well too. Like it's not something like the Country Bears where just it looks like really weird. Yeah, it actually does look like very convincing here, and I actually am like pretty glad that they decided to do this movie in live action and not make it animated, because if it was animated, it just probably wouldn't have treated itself as seriously as this movie does in live action. So yeah, so I am glad that they decided to go down the route of making this a live action movie rather than an animated movie. So yeah, so this is a live action movie with like the talking animals done right. So yeah, so the movie is just like really really good. So like I said, I give it 3.5 stars out of 4. Now it is like considered a more lighthearted version of Lord of the Rings, and I can see why people wouldn't make that comparison. Yeah, because it is very similar in its story and setup. But yeah, it is more lighthearted, as I said. So yeah, so I just really can't find a whole lot to really not like about the movie. I mean, yeah, it has received like a lot of praise over the years, and yeah, I do agree with the praise. It is a very very good movie. So yeah, so I really don't know like why this movie just kind of like stopped being talked about after its first year of release, because yeah, it is a really good movie and it still deserves the recognition that it got in that time. So yeah, so this movie really is not for everybody, but yeah, if you do like fantasies, then yeah, this is a good fantasy film to really check out. You really will get a lot of enjoyment out of it because it really does tell the story really really well. All right, so yeah, so I guess that's all I can really say about it. So yeah, so this does it for my review of the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So I hope you guys did enjoy this review. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.